In Generation 8, two moves that had ranked among Pokemon's most defining since Gold and Silver were removed. We have already made a video on one of them, Pursuit, which we are now following with this video on the other such move, Hidden Power. Hidden Power originated as the signature move of the Unknown, but they hadn't had any competitive impact, great as they may have been in using the move in the third Pokemon movie, which may as well have been directed by David Lynch. Hidden Power itself has been similarly surreal in the competitive world. It was normalized for a long time, despite the uncanny nature of any coverage made available to every Pokemon, and we accepted it, even as we stared its drastic, overpowering effect in the face. And then we woke up with its removal, and fully realized just how much of a dream world we had been in previously. Now, this is not to say we think Hidden Power necessarily should have been removed. We'll reach our conclusion on that later, but it certainly was something that floated around with normality until a certain event ripped back the blue velvet curtains and forced us to confront its terror head on. Today, we're going to dive fully into the impact Hidden Power had on the competitive scene and see if it should come back in style or remain banished in a realm of nothingness as it currently is. And so we ask, do we live inside a dream in which Hidden Power should have been removed? But before we start, I gotta tell you, I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts and audiobooks while I do basically everything, thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Raycon. I use Raycon's top-notch but affordable wireless earbuds pretty much 24/7. I listen to Ali Abdal's feel-good productivity because I certainly need that while I record and edit footage all day to make these videos. I'll listen to music while I meal prep, or if I need to go for a walk when I need a break from everything. What would I do without these things? Honestly, probably cry. It's the new year and Raycon's everyday earbuds are vastly improved in look, feel, and most importantly, sound. The best part is that they offer roughly 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life, which is great because, like I said, I basically use them the entire day. Optimized gel tips, they fit perfectly in my ears and never fall out. Some of my favorite bonus features is being able to switch between noise isolation or awareness mode. Now I can be either completely immersed or present whenever I want. And of course, Raycon's touch features make it super easy to control whenever I want to hear the next song, reject calls, or switch between sound profiles. So if you want affordable, high quality earbuds and also support the channel to help us produce more content, click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/FSG to get 15% off of your Raycon purchase and free shipping. Funnily enough, a long time ago in the much smaller OU metagame of GSC OU, Hidden Power was banned, in a way anyway. There was a significant period of time in the second generation where Zapdos and Raikou were not allowed to use Hidden Power. The HP Legends ban, as it was called, at first cited the difficulty of obtaining these two Pokemon with appropriate Hidden Powers in-game, but the real reason was that the two were considered overly difficult to answer when Hidden Power amped up their coverage. After all, this only extended to these two. Nobody was campaigning to remove Hidden Power from Articuno, Moltres, Suicune, or Entei. As a result, the ban was sometimes referred to as HP Yellows, since it really was just about Zapdos and Raikou. With Hidden Power in their arsenal, they were safely answered more or less only by Blissey, Snorlax, sometimes anyway, and, well, none other than opposing Raikou. Meanwhile, without Hidden Power, pretty much every ground type in the tier would switch into them well. The basic idea was that with Hidden Power, Electrics were too difficult to answer because you couldn't even use ground types to answer them. Zapdos took this to an extreme by actually switching in against grounds, which was a major contributor to the more or less accurate idea that Zapdos countered practically everything, even those grounds that were supposed to help soften the blow from its lacks, cracking thunders, and this in a nutshell was the Hidden Power dilemma. Access to any type coverage in the game was too much of an increase, even if the base power didn't seem too impressive on paper. Now, Hidden Power usually didn't result in a ban. Even the HP Legends GSC ban was eventually overturned, but it's easy to see how the move allowing Pokemon to circumvent their move pools and nullify would-be answers could make for a potentially overbearing effect. In a sense, Hidden Power is not dissimilar to Terastallization and Terra Blast. Obviously not nearly as enormous in effect, but the option to completely turn the tables on would-be checks is similar, right down to the little details. That, as powerful as both are, they do not come at no opportunity cost, and that both the expected and unexpected Hidden Powers were incredibly strong. For instance, in Generation 4, Mix Infernape was a force with its standard standard choice of Hidden Power Ice even when you knew to expect it, because it meant Pokemon like Gliscor and Dragonite or Salamence, when it was legal, couldn't withstand a hit from it, which was a huge part of 8 being able to threaten as much as it did. However, when it slapped on the rarer Hidden Power Electric, the results could also be devastating, as it would completely turn the tables on one of its checks that was usually quite reliable, Gyarados. And to top things off, the opponent wouldn't know it didn't have HP Ice until it revealed Electric, so Ape could still use the threat of its standard HP Ice to chase out a healthy Gliscor. Of course, there does exist a physical counterpart in Natural Gift, but its one-time use and reliance on berries meant that such sets, while completely unseen, were on the rarer side. There's a reason why Natural Gift Fire Gyarados, while potentially threatening, was a gimmick, and why Hidden Power Fire Grass types are standard. Z moves are another point of comparison. And well, while they are not exactly the same as Hidden Power, of course, they were controversial for similar reasons. Partially their brute force on stab moves, yes, but also in the way that they enabled threat potential via coverage options that otherwise wouldn't be available in a manner that made any sort of real impact. Sometimes it wasn't even about which Hidden Power a Pokemon would have, but if it even had Hidden Power at all. Gen 5 Volcarona, for instance, usually had Ground as its Hidden Power of choice, but could also throw Ice in there highly effectively, or sometimes even Water when used on rain teams. However, Volcarona's move pool was so deep, you didn't even know if it was using Hidden Power at all until it revealed it, as opposed to something like many electric types throughout the generations like Gen 3 Jolteon or Raikou, with move pools so sparse that you knew they would use some type of Hidden Power. The question was more in that specific example, Grass versus Ice. This wasn't necessarily much comfort, given how scary they were with that choice alone, which itself speaks to the sheer excellence of Hidden Power. So then consider that some Pokemon had an array of Hidden Powers as a luxury, a flexible choice of their move pools, and just how much more frightening and difficult to deal with that made them. Hidden Power is especially powerful for such coverage purposes in generations 2 through 5, in which Hidden Power is 70 base power. In 6 and 7, it is base 60, although this doesn't exactly stop it from being a metagame force. Or as Latios or Mega Diancie still smack the likes of Ferrothorn or Mega Metagross with Hidden Power Fire, for example. Furthermore, in Generation 7, Hidden Power lost the drawback it had always had, that it was dependent on a Pokemon's IVs, something that famously factored into its use. For example, it was impossible for Pokemon with Hidden Power Fire to possess a perfect speed stat, and this was a crucial consideration in both using and facing them. In Gen 7 though, this was no longer an issue, making Hidden Power even more spam than it already was. There was seemingly nothing Hidden Power couldn't do, nowhere its reach didn't extend, as demonstrated by uses of the move that are, on a surface level, completely and utterly ridiculous, but actually work incredibly well in practice, as they have been chosen for such specific coverage purposes that they almost can't help but do the job they were chosen for. This is something only Hidden Power can do. For instance, Ferrothorn possesses a truly dismal base special attack stat of 54. To give some frame of reference for just how awful this is, Ferrothorn has a lower special attack stat than many first stage Pokemon, including Voltorb, Cutiefly, and Pico herself, Wingull. However, in Generation 7 OU, Ferrothorn was a legitimate user of Hidden Power Fire. Oh haha for other Ferrothorn, right? Nope, Knockoff was better for that. One of Ferro's biggest issues was, as irritating as his move pool was, how badly it tended to get taken advantage of by one of the scariest Pokemon in the tier, Kartana. However, with Kartana's horrendous special defense and quadruple weakness to fire, Ferrothorn became a lure, as if it didn't do enough already. Kartana would see Ferrothorn as a switch-in opportunity, and Ferrothorn would HP fire it into dust. If Ferrothorn could use Hidden Power, then anything could, and that was absolutely incredible. And Ferrothorn is far from the only low special attack Pokemon to effectively use Hidden Power. HP Fire was effectively used by Fortress, a Pokemon with similarly awful special attack, coming in behind the likes of Piplup, Croagunk, and Flabebe in generations 2 and 3 to get the edge against opposing Fortress. In Gen 2, Fortress's HP Fire also helped its team deal with Steelix. Fortress also used Hidden Power Ice to excellent effect in Generation 5, leveraging its great physical bulk to score quadruple effective hits against major metagame targets in Gliscor and the legal at the time, Landorus Incarnate. Heck, even the purest physical attacker imaginable, Terrakion, briefly used Hidden Power Ice on some sets in Gen 5 to deal with Gliscor and Landorus T. Furthermore, there was a period in ORAS where Mega Scizor was immensely difficult to deal with. And how did players adapt? Why, with Hidden Power Fire, of course, but it wasn't coming from the usual suspects like Latios. No, it was coming from Landorus T, choosing to give up its all-important Hidden Power Ice, as well as opposing Mega Scizor. These aren't as outright weak as the previous examples. Landorus T famously has good special attack, as is on full display when two opposing ones will Hidden Power Ice each other from Gens 5 through 7, while Mega Scizor's Technician ability actually powered HP Fire up from 60 to 90, but nevertheless they are further effective effective examples of Hidden Power's capability to take advantage of quadruple weaknesses, and capability which is perhaps the most questionable example of its competitiveness or lack thereof. Though they could not be more dissimilar in almost every other way, this is the link between Gens 1 and 8, and to a lesser extent, 9. The lack of Hidden Power means Pokemon cannot surprise their counters with such ease. In Gen 1, Zapdos cannot beat Rhydon, just as Regieleki cannot beat Landorus Therian in Generation 8. In any other generation, both these grounds are a Hidden Power away from getting crushed, and would have to take this into account with their team and play. But in a game of as much uncertainty as Pokemon, the safety of one poke truly countering another is a highly appreciated facet of these generations. This mostly applies to Gen 9 too, the Pokemon that aren't terrestrializing anyway, which is most of them. Regieleki is actually a perfect example of this dynamic. If it had been introduced in a generation with Hidden Power, it likely would have been overwhelmingly dangerous, but seeing as it was completely and utterly blanked by any ground type, it didn't amount to much in OU. Then in Gen 9 it was so bonkers with Terra that it got banned incredibly fast. Even though the Terra was telegraphed and in fact necessitated for Regieleki to actually threaten the opponent, it didn't matter. It was just that good. So we know that Hidden Power was essential coverage for many of the most threatening Pokemon around. Pokemon that were pushed to or over the brink of being bearable with its help. Thundurus never would have been banned from Gen 5 OU without it, for instance. And even Pokemon that didn't need Hidden Power could become even more threatening with it. See Advanced Tyranitar, who ran many great sets without the move, but unleashed several of its most dangerous variants with the help of Hidden Power Bug to drop Celebi or Claydol, or Hidden Power Grass to smash through its most dependable counter, Swampert. We also know that Hidden Power was so good that even Pokemon with awful special attack stats could take it on for a niche use. Though on the rarer side, certain Hippowdon were spotted in Generation 4 using Hidden Power Flying to shore up a stall team's weakness to Breloom. This makes it quite easy to paint a picture of Hidden Power as too good at what it did, but is this necessarily the case? Hidden Power definitely had its good points too. The most dramatic example is how as soon as it was removed in Generation 8, the player base was certain Gliscor, which had already been incredibly obnoxious to deal with for several generations, would now be too much for OU were it ever released, which almost surely would have been the case, especially because it was too much for the tier upon its release in Generation 9's Teal Mask DLC. Of course, at the time of this video, it has returned to the tier with the release of the Indigo disc, but the point remained that without Hidden Power Ice being as popular as it had been previously, Gliscor's defensive profile became outrageously effective, even though it had lost access to Roost. Overall though, as the game of Pokemon adds not just more threats, but bigger threats, as exemplified in the many hyper min-max threats of Generations 9, it generally stands that taking away options that are offensive first and foremost help in this regard. It helps limit the off-difficult to withstand explosiveness of modern generations. This is not just exemplified in the immediate, amusing example of two Landorus T not being locked in a game of chicken in their Hidden Power Ice standoff, being replaced with more nuanced options instead. It's demonstrating how something like Gen 8 Tapu Koko, no longer able to HP ice its way through grounds anymore, must take a different, more systematic approach if it wishes to not be completely blocked by them. It's demonstrated in Volcarona no longer being able to Hidden Power ground its way through what would otherwise be the most perfect counter imaginable, Heatran. Though that Gen 8 idea was, of course, hilariously upended by terrestrialization. Defensive Pokemon generally appreciate the loss of Hidden Power more, as this helps give them some stability in an increasingly powerful game. And given the utterly monstrous power creep of Gen 9, such stability needs to be taken wherever it can be found. In conclusion, we believe the removal of Hidden Power was ultimately good for the game, and wonder if there could have been more balance found in previous generations without them. Maybe Gliscor would be too much as well, true, funny as that is to imagine, but threats like Thundurus and Volcarona would be far more palatable without them, and that likely would have contributed to greater balance overall. Furthermore, if Hidden Power were to return, it'd be essential that it remains 60 base power, which was far more balanced for such a move. It'd be interesting to see Generations 2 through 5 with this weakened form of Hidden Power. GSC Zapdos in particular would not be the overbearing monster it is now if its HP ices and occasionally waters lost 10 base power, and it'd generally be easier to take a hit from all manner of attacks relying on the move in every generation, from offensive Calm Mind Jirachi in Generations 3 and 4 to Alakazam and Keldeo in Generation 5 and 6, and everything in between. So all in all, Hidden Power is a bit much, and its removal for the game is a positive, but the 60 base power version was, while still on the overwhelming side with how it enabled certain threats, is far more reasonable overall. Thanks for watching everyone, and as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content, and in the comments I want to know, what do you think about our video? Do you think Hidden Power was broken, or do you think it should come back? Whatever it is, let us know in the comments, and thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well. and follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.